They say winning ain't everything. Well, we don't have them type conversations over here, man. Had that conversation with the losers. We trying to win at everything we do. Even in the loss, we don't see defeat. We see a lesson learned. Straight up. Look, I came into this world in 1978. The doc looked me in my face and knew I was something great. 45, 42 Prescott, that's where I'm from. Grew up in the slums around dope dealers and bums. As humble as I was, I adapted to my habitat. In my own lane, though, far from where they crashing at. Dumb bar graduate, the game I'd have mastered it. Served in the Navy, look, y'all don't know the half of it. Pops passed in 01, moms passed last year. I know they up in heaven smiling down, crying mad tears, cause they son making it. No telling where I'm taking it. My city been cursed, but I feel that I'm breaking it. Coached at Wayne High in 15 in one state. Seen the fork in the road and went straight. I know what I'm worth. I'm OG King CURT, Brooklyn Nets gaming crew legend. Let's work.
Hello, this is OG King CURT, your host of the OG 2 Cents podcast. Thanks to all who tune in each and every Sunday. I appreciate it very much. Also, thanks to my team, Dave at the 2K Zone, Strider Visuals, and Bauer DZN. Also, during this time, I just want to share some education on preventing the spread of the coronavirus. It's due to 5. 1, hands, wash them often. 2, elbow, cough into it. 3, face, don't touch it. 4, space, keep safe distance. 5, feeling sick, stay at home. This episode is Who Are You? And typically, when someone asks, who are you? People would say their name, maybe where they're from and different things of that nature. But I want to dig deeper into that question. I had listened to a video by Andy Henriquez, and it basically said the best way for people to know you is by simply telling your story. And that's what this episode is going to be all about tonight, is me telling you a short story of my life and who I am. So we'll be back and we'll get right into it.
They say winning ain't everything. Well, we don't have them type conversations over here, man. Had that conversation with the losers. We trying to win at everything we do. Even in the loss, we don't see defeat. We see a lesson learned.
And we are back. This is episode 8. Who are you? If someone asked you, who are you? What would your answer be? What type of person are you? What do you stand for? How do you want to be remembered? Your legacy. Basically, just to paint a picture for you, is I was born in 1978. I came out with a brother that was born 2 minutes before me. He was born actually at 8:46 p.m. I was born at 8:48 p.m. To my mother, Shirley Ann Curtis, and father, Isaac Evans. Unfortunately, it was short-lived. My mom passed away when me and my brother was 2 years old. And, I'm pretty sure that did put a lot on my dad. He had came from a different upbringing. His father had fathered a lot of kids, so he didn't necessarily grab the father gene, so to speak, like some do, some don't. I never had any hatred towards my dad or anything like that for not being around, but it was pretty much covered by my grandma, who raised me and my brother, Patricia Curtis, my mom's mom, and her husband, James Bradford. They pretty much picked up where I'm sure my mom would have carried the weight had she stayed alive. It was, I had a pretty good upbringing. Minus that, I think I never really had a chance to sulk or I guess like to. I didn't question too many things about it. As I grew older, I just always looked at my grandma as my mom. She was always there. I'm not gonna say it wasn't tough or anything like that, but I was grateful just to have two people in my life that loved and cared for me, as if I was their son. So I never like dwelled on the loss. Although I did think often like what would life would have been like if my mom had stayed alive. I heard so many good things about her. Picked up a lot of different things from her as far as creativity and I'm sure the ability to love and be caring and passionate about life and things in general. From what I hear from people who knew her, and then ultimately her mom and her brothers and sisters who basically were my aunt and uncles. But as we grew up, I grew up with all of them becoming my mom, basically my brothers and sisters. I pretty much just picked up the slack with that, and pretty much, my childhood was great. And it was loving, big family, jointed family, with my mom's side of the family, and then, like I said, James Bradford, which was my grandma's husband. But I never called any one of them grandma or granddad. I just always called them mom and dad. And my dad, he was hardworking. He was from the South, Little Rock, Arkansas. When I was a kid, he owned like different battery shops, worked on cars, built any and everything you can name. Also, he ran a club, and at least at the point of the life where he came into my life, he was there, like, every day. Anything we needed, anything we wanted, he didn't hesitate, and he used to tick my mom off sometimes because he wasn't that good with managing money. So because he would just spoil us to death with anything we wanted. He always referred to us as his boys, and basically anything we wanted or anything that we needed, he made sure that we didn't go without. Unfortunately, by the time I was 15, right when I'm hitting the peak of what I thought, what most would think is like that teenage curve where you going from a boy to a man. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and that took a lot out of our childhood, because we went from having this strong man that was a provider, protector, just watching him deteriorate through that disease. It was tough, because I felt like we missed out on a lot of different things that he could have taught us, and the different experiences that he hadn't got to share with us as we grew, from boys to men. And he stayed with us as much as he could, and then I think after 2 or 3 years, my mom decided to put him into a nursing home, and that was tough, because we was used to him being at home with us every day, and now we're on the verge of we in high school, freshmen in high school, and not having your dad there, and at the normal, in his normal self that you used to, it was tough, and my mom, she was dealing with a lot, and she was still, holding it down and everything like that, but it just kind of took us out of our comfort zone, because we used to having our mom and dad there all the time. And because by the time me and my brother got to high school, both of them were basically retired. So my dad did a lot of work around the house up until that point, and my mom, she was always around doing something, helping people out, church going, always involved in any and everything, and she always had the ability to hide her pain and whatever she might be going through, just for the sake of everybody else around her, and I guess that's what good moms do. It helped us a lot. I mean, because we didn't always get to see. She wouldn't allow us to have to bear things that didn't belong to us, and I'm forever grateful for how she handled that with us, and allowed us to be kids, allowed us to grow up and experience life in its phases without putting too much of a burden on us. Went through high school, Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, one of the premier basketball and track schools in Ohio, where I'm from. Played freshman football. I liked it, but basketball had always been my first love. Plus, I didn't like being in the cold. I really couldn't. My body never adjusted to being in the cold. So I pretty much, after my freshman year, we went undefeated. I played defensive back. But basically went undefeated that year. My freshman year, won the city championship. I pretty much quit after that, and I stayed playing basketball. Also, freshman year in basketball, we won. We won every game. We went undefeated, football and basketball, at the freshman level, and then sophomore year, I just stuck with basketball, and I played JV. We went 13-4. I think we finished second in the city that year. A couple of our players who were originally from the freshman team, they moved up and played JV, and that kind of took some firepower away from us, so to speak. Also, junior year, I played JV and varsity. I would play JV and then dress varsity, and probably played a couple of quarters varsity here and there. And then senior year, I played varsity. Came off the bench, backup point guard. We won 20 games that year. Lost in the regional finals. One game before the state. So overall, just a pretty good athletic career. I was an honor student most of my high school years. I wish I would have took school a little bit more serious than what I did. Took a lot of honors classes that didn't benefit me down the road, because I didn't take it as serious as I should, as far as foreign language, government, and different things like that. Athletically, we only lost my senior class. We lost 14 games total in 4 years in high school. It was pretty good. Played with some pretty good guys who went on to play D1, whether it was basketball, football, or baseball. I chose to enlist in the Navy after I graduated. It was kind of a funny story, because before that, I think it was the summer going into my senior year, I didn't have any offers. I didn't have too much college interest going on at that point. So I got a phone call one day from a naval recruiter. Never forget his name, Dave Mangus. I never forget his name because this story ultimately changed my life. I talked to him. Never really. My mom was the type that she would let us handle things on our own at a young age so we could get experience in doing things for ourselves. So I never really communicated with my mom about the phone calls that I would have with the recruiter. So I talked to him, stayed in touch. Right before I got ready to graduate, my basketball coach, Thomas Applegate, rest his soul, one of the greatest human beings I ever met in my life. He did any and everything for his players. The unique part about him, he was an older white man who coached in a predominantly black high school. And the one thing I always loved about him is that he actually lives in the neighborhood. Like, he wasn't one of those coaches who came from the suburbs and to coach a talented, predominantly black high school. And he also taught there as well. He was in the heart of everything. Like, you could go to his house. Him and his wife always had their door open. Miss Carolyn Applegate, and they just made it was bigger than basketball. It was a family. He took me to an open tryout with a junior college. I played I played like 6 games that night. Never hardly even took a shot. Like I said, I played point guard. I was there with some other top recruits, and they were good scorers and good shooters. So I basically just ran the show and played defense. And at the end of the night, I ended up getting an offer. I didn't sign that night. At this time, it's like around May. Now, June, I graduated. June 10th, 1997, graduated. In July, like at the end of June, I was playing in a summer league with the college. It was Edison State. Having a pretty good summer league, playing with some really good players, some second-year players as well that was coming back. And at the beginning of July, the naval recruiter called me. And basically, he knew I had graduated and everything like that. And he wanted to know if I was ready to enlist. And like I said, not talking to my parents or anything like that. Played the game. I played 2 games this night. After the games, the recruiter came by my house, picked me up, took me to the MEP station, and before you know it, I was enlisting into the United States Navy. After I enlisted, I got shipped off to Great Lakes, Illinois. Went through the processing and everything like that. It was a part of processing where basically you're in a classroom and they're basically instructing you on how boot camp is and everything like that. And they gave us a paper, or basically on the back of the paper you could write. It was an informative paper to send back home to your parents. So basically on the back of the paper you could write whatever note or whatever you wanted to your parents. So basically I wrote a note to my mom explaining to her of how, I ended up enlisting into the Navy. Just told her the whole story. After the game, went with the recruiter. They were basically, with this letter, they were sending your clothes and everything that you came in back home to your parents, or to your address or where you used to live. So at this point, obviously I didn't think about it then, because I was still a kid. So when my mom had got the package, it had my shoes, my clothes, and a letter in it. So, after talking to her, obviously after boot camp and everything like that, she thought I was dead. Like, here it is, she getting a box with the last clothes and shoes and everything that she seen me in, and now getting this letter. So she thought I had passed away, and and that's the way she was getting the information. But basically, I ended up going through boot camp. I went on after boot camp to go to A school. I went to a machinist mate A school. After I graduated boot camp, during the graduation of boot camp, my mom, her best friend, and at the time my high school sweetheart, they all came to the graduation, and that was like the first time I had seen my mom since I left. She was proud of me and everything like that. It was kind of a awkward situation because, like I said, I got the offer from the junior college, so everybody assumed that I was about to go to college. I wasn't going to the military. The one twist about this is that during boot camp, the college coach that was at the school I was going to, his son was in boot camp with me. So when I seen him, he looked at me and I looked back at him. Because mind you, in boot camp, you can't really do a ton of unauthorized talking, except when you're in the barracks. So, he looked at me, I looked at him, and he was like, "Hey, like, aren't you supposed to be playing for my dad?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was supposed to." And some things happened, and it was just funny at that time because I'm thinking, here I am, supposed to be going to play college basketball, and then I ended up in the Navy. So basically, after all of that, I went to A school, graduated A school, moved on to the fleet. That's what they call it once you leave boot camp or you leave school and you go off into your ship where you're assigned. I went on to the USS Ponce, LPD-15 Gator Navy, stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. Had a great time. I was growing up on the fly. The one thing about it is, you go into the military 18 years old, you're going off and you're in the world of men. I look at my 4 years in the Navy as like, that was my 4 years of college, so to speak. I spent a lot of time growing up, but I always used to tell people, like, 4542 Prescott, that's where I grew up with my mom and dad. I used to always say that it prepared me for any and everything. So the military don't give them credit for who I became or, who I ultimately would become years down the road. But 4542 Prescott was the staple for me. In doing that, like I said, Norfolk, Virginia, had a great time, ton of experiences, traveled the world. During that time, and when I first got to the ship, went back home on leave. My dad he was still in a nursing home and everything like that. Still, he, like I said, he was deteriorating and everything. But one thing about it, when he seen his kids or people, like he instantly would, like, he would pop up and know, like, who you were. And he, at that point, he still could recognize everything like that. I met a woman who was working at the nursing home that he was residing at, and we hit it off. At this point, I'm 19. We talked for a minute. We got close, and then I ended up going back, but we stayed in touch. And then the next time I came back home, she left and went back with me. We ended up getting married. She had a 2-year-old son at the time, and we was, I just like to say we were just young and in love, so we thought, and just living life. She ended up, her and her son ended up moving out to Virginia with me. We ended up living out there for a few years. Then around 2001, she ended up moving back because my enlistment was only from 1997 to 2001. So during this time, I'm like trying to decide if I'm going to re-enlist or if I'm going to get out. 2001, January 27, I believe it was 2:11 p.m. My dad passed away. And it was at that point where I thought that I was going to stay in. And I had the paperwork ready and everything like that. But once my dad passed away, at this point, my mom, was back home, and it was her, my brother, my sister, different people was back home. But I wanted to be back home closer to my mom since I, had lost my dad, and so at that point I decided that I was gonna get out. I came back home, around the funeral and different things like that. It was tough. Now I'm I remember it pretty much. It took the life out of me. I've heard of people speak of death, and when they say when that person died, I died too. I literally felt like a piece of me was gone. And it hurt. I'm talking about it. It hurt. I watched the man, at least where I met him, at the point in his life. I had known him since I was 6 years old, and he had been in our family, and he had been around my mom, way before I was even thought of. So he had been a staple in our family. And it was man, that day was it was tough. But moving forward, I went back and served until July. I got out. Matter of fact, I had saved up so much time because I hardly ever went on leave or anything like that. So I got out a month earlier than scheduled. I got out in June. I came back home, ended up working in long-term healthcare as a STNA. It wasn't too much shortly after that. About a year or so later, me and my wife ended up getting a divorce. We just kind of, we married young. We just grew apart. Nothing. We still friends to this day. Still talk. I still stayed in her son's life. I still love him. He still loved me. We still talk and everything. I was the only dad he knew. He was the first child that I had taken care of, and nothing. But it was a lot to gain from it. Nothing was lost. So we ended up moving on. I ended up, like I said, working in long-term healthcare. I had moved back home with my mom for the time being. A few years later, I got into coaching heavy. I started coaching AAU. I ended up meeting a woman. I was coaching her son, and I met her, and we got into a relationship, and about six months later, we ended up getting married. She had 3 kids, two girls and 1 boy. Her oldest 2 was in high school, and her youngest was in elementary. I always was, I don't know, I love to love, and I was quick in doing so. And I live with no regrets. Like, we was married for 15 years. Helped her with the kids. They ended up flourishing. My oldest son, he graduated from college. He's now raising, two boys and a girl. And he was hard worker, good family guy. I'm proud of him. My oldest daughter, she's a hard worker. Loves to live life, full of love, and she's in school right now, and trying to better herself and different things like that. I'm proud of her. And then my youngest daughter, she took my last name. She graduated from college last year, and now she's working in the school system. She played college basketball. I coached her when she was coming up, and it's just been a overall good experience. Love all my kids and proud of them. They've helped make me become a better person, and so I'm grateful for all of that. Like I said, nothing has never been lost in any relationship I've been in. I've always gained more than I ever could imagine. And during that time, doing all of this is where I was coaching, working in healthcare. My mom, she was, she still getting around doing her thing, and all the way from 2003 to like 2015, I worked into long-term healthcare in several different facilities, nursing homes, hospitals. Even during this time, I was still coaching AAU, middle school basketball, eventually moved up to high school basketball. I had always played 2K, ever since it came out, even dating back from the military days. But it wasn't until 2014, 15 where I really got heavy into it. They had introduced a new mode, My Career mode, where basically you can build your player and make them, give them different attributes, different features and stuff like that. And I got into the Jordan Rec Center, which was a new added part to it. And that's where basically you can create your player. Everybody can create their players, go into the Jordan Rec Center and play as if like it's open gym, like, typically what it was, like at the Rec Center. At this point, I was hearing word about leagues and how people were meeting up to play 5v5 against each other. So at this point, I was looking on different gaming forums and talking to different people, and I ran across a league called the ABL. And basically, it was structured to the point where teams would sign up. They would compete against each other. The league would keep records. And just played it just like what they do in any conference or any league or anything like that. And they'd have a playoff format and different things of that nature. So in the process of playing in that and running that, I came across another league called the SBA. Now, this was the turning point because I had played in the ABL, but I also ended up started running it. And the ABL stood for the American Basketball League. I was not only playing, but I was running it. So when I came across the SBA, I came across LT. But at the time, he was working in the SBA league, but he was also playing in it. And I had played on a few different teams in the SBA, but then he had a spot on his team, and we started running together. And basically, we built a friendship that would turn into a brotherhood, where it got to the point where one day LT was, we was just talking in a party, and he said, "Kurt, I think I can run a league." And I said, "For real?" He's like, "Yeah." And I think it'll be better than all of the leagues that's around. And I said, okay, well, cool. Like if that's what you want to do, I help you. And he was like, cool. And I said, well, what are you gonna call it? And he said the MPBA. And I said, what does that stand for? He said, My Player Basketball Association. I'm like, shit, like, why I should have knew that. And I said, well, cool, it's dope. I said, let's do it. So, like I said, this was at the right when 2K15 came out. It was kind of like in the middle when we decided we was gonna do something, and we started slowly but surely. It picked up a lot of momentum. We started where basically at the beginning we were just keeping records. Teams would submit screenshots. We keep records. Teams would have to play a minimum amount of games in order to qualify for the playoffs, and then we would do the playoffs and crown a champion at the end. So that went on like that for 2 seasons in that particular 2K. And then in the following 2K, which is 2K16, we implemented a statistical system and awards to go with it. So now, mind you, while we're running this league, I'm still working. I'm still coaching. LT's in the military. Like, he's in the Navy at the time. And we're still running this league that's like just building momentum and becoming more and more popular every 2K. So somewhere around 2K17, all of the top talent that you can think of was playing in our league and thriving. And it was becoming the go-to league. Like, if you could play that mode of the pro-am mode of the game, then the MPBA is where you needed to be. Also, at this time, we picked up a third partner, which is Lawrence West, which is everybody know him in the community as Big West. Big country boy from North Carolina. Was great at marketing the league and selling the league, and was a community guy. Knew how to build friendships, and was a solid part of our team. LT was the statesman. He went out and he knew he was in all the big chats, all the competitive chats with the top players, and telling them about our league. Wes was doing the same thing, in multiple chats and marketing and pitching, and he played a big role in us going from Facebook, which we had a Facebook group chat, to going to Twitter, because that's where all of the talent was at it regarding 2K. So he was real instrumental in that. We never, a lot of things we didn't know about on the scene like that until Wes came along and was very active in that part. We were just doing Xbox One leagues and tournaments, and then he implemented the PS4 side of it and ran that for a few years. It just blew up our brand even more. Fast forward, I was, like I said, I'm still working, coaching. The 2K league comes along. A lot of the players who had played in our league was drafted into the 2K league. That kind of gave us some star power, so to speak, about us basically setting the groundwork for this league. We took pride in that. We didn't really know how to look at it. We was happy with what we was doing. We were successful at it. We never felt entitled or like that we should be, like it was just destined for us to be a part of the league. But the first year of the league, we ended up working with me and LT at the time. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but Wes had a vision, something that he wanted to do, and starting his own brand doing some different things behind that. And he departed from NPBA and still ended up making an impact in the community with his NapX brand, which will also provide a lot of exposure for different players in the community with tournaments and different platforms for players that wanted to get their name out there and their game out there. So now, the 2K League is here. Me and LT, we still running the NPBA, but then now we're getting our foot in the door with Bucks GG as draft analysts in the first season. And then the second season, we ended up, getting an opportunity. LT went on to Mavs GG, and myself, I ended up getting an opportunity with Nets GC, which is at the time Nets GC was an expansion team, and LT was taking over for the Mavs as their coach went on and moved to another team. At this time, like, my life had truly changed. I went from working in healthcare to also I was doing group home work. I was doing home healthcare work, and by 2016, that was my last year of coaching. I pretty much hung it up from that. Had a good run. Coached at Wayne High School. We won the state championship in 2015. A boatload of talent. I had a great time. That's where I had a lot of growth and development as a person. I was under some great men. That was like my big bros, and they helped me. They helped me grow in a lot of different areas. Then also in working in a group home, the woman who ran and operated it, she was like a big sister to me. Cared for me, showed me a lot of love. I think it was the perfect relationship. I've always liked kids. I always had great relationships and building with kids and being a big brother, mentor type. It's a good experience. And another hurdle in the road is the year that Nets GC joined. My mom, she had been experiencing all of this as everything was going on. I talked to my mom about everything. A lot of people always looked at me about how interested I was in video games, and how when I always had free time, I always was playing video games. Like, and most of them just think I was just sitting down playing. A lot of them never knew, like, I was actually running, one of the largest tournament circuits and league and tournament circuits, in the country. And once people realized that, it was like, oh man, it's like, man, like, yeah, just doing some cool stuff. But most people just think you just sitting on the couch or sitting in the chair just playing the game just to be playing it, and not to realize like what we was gaining from it. My mom, she was a typical mom, and she was just proud. She was proud as long as her kids was doing the right thing, not in trouble, and taking care. As long as you was working and taking care of your kids, she was happy-go-lucky. And then occasionally, as long as you was doing whatever she wanted you to do for her at the time, but whatever it was, she well earned it anyway. But unfortunately for me, right around when I was getting some interest about getting the opportunity for Nets GC, my mom passed away, and it was I don't know, death was I never want to say like it was becoming like normal, but it was happening a lot, and I'm talking about like, like when you're a kid and you're growing up and you're used to seeing these figures, like your mom, your dad, your favorite uncle, your aunts and sisters. Like when you get used to seeing these people who have been in your life since you was a kid. They seen your ups and downs and everything like that. It was just getting tough. And the thing that hurt the most about losing my mom was that she never really she used to hear about what I was doing. She knew when I was going back and forth to New York and different things like that, but she never got to experience the result. And that was something that was, it hurt for a long time, because ironically, like she passed away on July the 4th, right before, right at the end. It was, at the coming towards the end of season 1, and it was only a few months later where I learned that I would, get an opportunity to work for Brooklyn. So like for her not to see that and experience it right along with me, it was tough, and it's still tough. A lot of people don't know, like, for her, like it was, she had a lot of illnesses and different things like that, with congestive heart failure and different things like that. She had suffered strokes and heart attacks early, at an early age, and even as she got older. But she was tough. We was always used to her bouncing back, and it was so crazy because it was like around the winter. I think it was 2018. We had a decision to make, and basically going into January of 2000, I think it was 19. She, they said it was only giving her 6 months to live, and if she didn't have the surgery. So she had the surgery and still passed away 6 months later. So it was like, it plays tricks on you, because it's like, well, at that point it was like, well, what would have happened if she didn't have the surgery? Different things like that. So it was just rough. July the 4th, we normally have a big cookout and everything like that, with a lot of different family members and stuff like that. And that was, the first time she wasn't there. Everybody got through it in their own way, I'm sure. And like I said, it was another blow to me, because like my mom she was the cheerleader, she was the she was the heckler. I mean, she was everything you needed to be resilient and to be tough and to get through whatever you needed to get through. She had her own special way of making sure you was prepared. One of the things she used to always say is that, I want to leave this earth knowing that you and your brother will be able to take care of yourself and take care of your kids. And I guess in her own special way, when she did pass away, we definitely was doing what she wanted. And I was always glad about that. And I think about that all the time. Going into the season, as she after she had passed away, it was tough. I remember the first game. I'm trying to, I'm already have nerves and everything like that. We opening up against, well, it wasn't really a rival, but it's two New York teams in the league, and a lot of hype being built around it. One of our players on the roster at the time, he's playing against his old team, with his new team. Just great atmosphere and everything like that. And I'm trying to be upbeat and happy about one of the biggest moments in my life. And I'm struggling. Right before, typically like on game days, in our first season, the team would come up to my apartment, we'd talk, and then we'd wait on the shuttle to come, and we get on the shuttle as a team and head over to the studio. Well, 30 minutes before the team was supposed to come up to my apartment, I'm literally crying the whole time, like uncontrollably. I'm thinking, it's so many emotions running through me. I'm thinking about it. A lot of people who helped me along the way to get to where I was at. Trying to take in the moment. Hurt that my mom is not there, one of the biggest moments of my life. And tears was just overflowing. It was happy, it was hurt, it was confused, and it just everything all at once. And it was tough. But needless to say, we went out that night and we won the game. And at least won the first game, and kind of got the monkey off our back for everything that was going on with me. A lot of people didn't even know that was going on. That was a big moment for me and at the time, and something I definitely won't forget. I constantly think about my mom, my dad. I lost, some of my great uncles that was in my life, consistently. My grandma, my dad's mom, different people that's been instrumental in my life. So it was like sometimes I never really got a full moment to truly grieve in a lot of different situations because I had things going on that I was obligated to do. And I guess for me at the time, I felt like it was better for me that way. It was better for me to cope, but not constantly thinking about the death of loved ones and different things like that. So that's like the story. I guess it's kind of a short story of my life and different things that I've dealt with and how things have shaped me and stuff like that. And I'm grateful for all of it. I mean, I try not to question too many things, but I just do what I need to do in order to accomplish whatever it is that I want. I guess through my parents, when I say who are you, I guess my parents raised me to be a stand up man, accountable. To understand that things are not always going to go your way. You don't cry about it. You work hard. You stay consistent. Always try to be a man of your word. And, don't respect. Respect is something that's given as well as received. And, just be who you are. And that's what's always worked for me. So, and I guess that's kind of sums up like when, say, who are you, and beyond just saying Ivan Curtis, AKA OG King CURT, GM coach for SGC. It's always more than, you're more than your titles. You're definitely, it's layers to everybody. And I'm not going to get through everything on this particular podcast, but it's kind of like an intro to who I was and how I became who I am. And the funny thing about it is some people ask like about the OG and 2 Cents and the King Curd, like where they come from or different things like that. And it's pretty much I was an older figure, so to speak, in the 2K community. Most of the time, people they hear my voice and they be like, "Man, you sound like somebody's dad," and yeah, they were right. Like I was a father of 5, so it's like people, once they see how I was and how I gravitated to people in the game and everything about it. A lot of people started to look up to me and basically respected, how I moved and how I resonated with just providing a platform for people in the 2K community. So I took the OG part about it, original gamer. LT used to call me old geezer too, so that kind of went into it. But the King part was when I joined LT's team, everybody had King in their name. So, and I liked that. Like, it was like kings, like royalty. And you never hear nothing, it was just, I just liked how it went. And then the Kurt, my mom used to call me Kurt. Obviously my last name is Curtis, but I used to love how whenever, I always had a key to her house, no matter where she lived or whatever. And anytime I would go over her house and she would see me, she'd be like, "Hey, Kurt," like, yeah. So that just stuck with me. And I always liked how it sounded when she said my name like that. So I pretty much took the OG, the King, from playing with LT's team, because his name was King LT. It was NTOF, King LT. And then I put the Kurt from what my mom said. That pretty much I ended up branding that, with logos, videos, and different things like that. It had got to get a nice flow to it. And most people, they either call me OG or they call me Kurt, or, either one. So that's pretty much, how I came up with that. I guess, like, to wrap up this episode is, as I asked when it says, if someone asked you who you are, what would your answer be, and what type of person are you, and what do you stand for, and how do you want to be remembered? I covered everything. Getting to the part of how I want to be remembered is just somebody who cared for people, a natural love for life, hard worker, persistent, like I said, resilient, never been a quitter, never been a complainer. Somebody that hopefully people looked at me to be someone that they can call on and know I can answer the bell. Sums it up. I want my kids to hopefully remember me as a great father figure for them, and always being there for them whenever I could, and just basically just somebody who always just try to do the right thing, and do right by myself, do right by people and my family and everything like that. At this moment, I just want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in. Do understand that the OG 2 Cents is never a personal attack to anybody. It's my personal thoughts and experiences in life or those around me. Make sure to follow me on all social media platforms at OG King CURT. That is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also, the OG 2 Cents podcast is on Apple, and Spotify. Also, I want to give another shout out to my team, Dave at 2K Zone, Strider Visuals, Bauer DZN. Follow them on Twitter as well. Check out the 2K Zone on Podbean at the 2kzone.podbean.com, and be on the lookout for next week's episode, number 9. It's called What's Real. And remember, if it makes sense, it's an OG 2 cents.
Brooklyn Nets gaming crew legend. Let's work. Hey, much love to the whole MPBA league. Special shout out to the Brooklyn Nets gaming crew. We on our way, baby. What's up, JP? LT, Big West, Famous Enough, 2K Comp Games, Black Frank White, Brooklyn Nick, Rico. Let's put this work in, fellas. And much, much, much love to the entire 2K community for always showing me love. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. Yeah.